Shalom, everyone. This Friday, we will enter into the 5th month of God's calendar, the month of Av. Av comes from the Hebrew word father. It's the root word for the word father. And it means that this month is a month of fatherhood. But for us to be able to be conformed in his image, in our Father's image, we must be able to listen to his voice, to learn from his ways, right? To follow him. And this month of Av has an anointing and an unction over it of Simeon. And Simeon has a root word in Hebrew associated to it, which means to hear, shema, to hear, which in Hebrew also means to obey. You know, there is not a distinct word for obeying in Hebrew as there is to listen. So in the Hebraic mindset, if you really listen, you will obey. So this month has an anointing for us to obey and to listen to God's voice. We need to focus our attention during this month to listen to God's voice, to obey his commandments, to be able to set time apart, to turn off the distraction, turn off all of the other voices and all of the other noises that separate us from that communion with him, so that we may not only receive direction, but that we may receive a purpose and how to perform his work, right? I want to read a verse from Ezra chapter 7, and it's in verse 9 that teaches us a key for this month. In Ezra chapter 7, verse 9, it says, "On the first day of the first month, the journey up from Babylon was started. And on the first day of the 5th month, he arrived in Jerusalem, thanks to the benevolent care of his God for him." So Ezra set his foot from Babylon on the first day of the first month, and he arrived in Jerusalem on the first day of the 5th month, which is the month that we will be entering in a few days. So I want you to pay attention. There are some journeys that we started in the beginning of the year, not in January, but in Aviv, not in the Gregorian calendar, but in God's calendar. We set our foot on a journey that started on the first month, but we will only be able to come home on the 5th month, because there is a process that we go through. And once Ezra arrived in Jerusalem, he didn't just laid and relax. That's where the work really started, right? He went there to restore the love of God's Torah, to restore observance of God's commandments. So I pray that we will be Ezra to this generation, that we will restore God's commandments, and that we will use God's time and their unctions and anointings and the doors that are open in establishing seasons and established times by our Av, by our Abba, our Father, that we will use for his glory, for his purpose, that we will be counted among the blessed. Okay, set time apart. Set your time apart to listen to the Spirit of God, to learn his ways, to obey his voice, and be blessed and be set apart.